Welcome to PR Talk, sponsored by the PRSA of Oregon and part of the MPN, the Marketing Podcast Network. This is your host, Amy Rosenberg, founder of Veracity and author of A Modern Guide to Public Relations. Help other people find our podcast by subscribing, rating, giving us a review, or sharing on social media. Hi, I have Michelle Garrett here of Garrett Public Relations. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, Amy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So I'm going to tell everybody that, first of all, you have been operating your Garrett Public Relations for 23 years, which is huge. And you're also the host of Freelance Chat on Twitter, which is a weekly chat for freelancers on Thursday noon Eastern. And you also co-host the PR Lunch Hour, a weekly Twitter space on Friday noon Eastern. So I want to talk about freelancing, obviously, because you do so much with that. But first, let's just start with you because you are the ultimate freelancer. So tell us your story and how you created Freelance Chat and just how you have maintained, your business.
Yeah. Well, first of all, again, thank you so much for having me. I love to follow everything that you do, and I'm always in agreement, nodding along.
Oh, okay.
with what you have to say and your advice. So, as a fellow PR pro, I'm a fan. But I have been on my own for a long time. I will say I was freelancing before it was like cool, before it was like everybody was doing it. So, I feel like it was in my blood a little bit because my parents were both self-employed. So I don't know what it was like to live in a house where people got up and went to an office every day. That just wasn't our vibe. That just wasn't the way it was at our house. So I think that, several of my siblings and me, we've always thought that we were going to work for ourselves, and that's kind of how it has turned out. So, I love, being on my own. I started my business when I was out in Silicon Valley, and I had worked, I had done everything, leading up to that. I had worked corporate, I worked nonprofit, I worked at an agency. That was my last stint. And I kind of prepared myself to go out on my own and knew that that was what I was going to do. So it wasn't like I accidentally became a freelancer or I fell into freelancing. I was very deliberate about it. And I always, thought, well, if it doesn't work out, the worst thing that can happen is I'll go get another job, right? So, but it never worked out that way. And I have been on my own for all these years now. So I really enjoy it. And I wanted to start the chat to help other freelancers and, not only share what I knew, but also, let other freelancers support each other, because I feel like a lot of times it can be lonely and we don't know who to turn to ask questions. We don't know who to turn to. We feel a little bit on our own, which of course that's what we are, we work for ourselves, but it does help to have a trusted source where you can go and ask questions. And of course it's free. So, we welcome anybody who works for themselves, consultants, self-employed people, whatever you call yourself. You can join us at the chat on Thursdays.
Oh, okay. Well, so first of all, I love the whole support thing because I totally get it. I mean, now we do have some staff, which I love. I've realized just having, either contractors, which we also have, or staff, I really just enjoy working with the team because, again, not only is just, owning a business or freelancing lonely, but I also think marketing is kind of a lonely job in a way, and I can talk about that. But so I don't know. I mean, it's just so interesting. So, but first, before we get into my like nitty gritty questions on freelancing, just so how does what kind of freelancers are in your chat, and how does that really work if you're not familiar with, Twitter or even Twitter Space?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had been to Twitter chats before I started the chat, and I had also had a meetup group in person before I started the chat. And I felt like a Twitter chat could be a great forum for freelancers because there are a lot of us there, because I think we are looking for that water cooler moment in our day sometimes, because we are on our own, but we still want to have that banter, that chit chat. And I felt like, I kind of had already built a small community of freelancers. The chat is 3.5 years old now. But at that time, I had already, was already connected to a number of people who were self-employed. And I thought, well, this might be a good thing for them. And when I was getting ready to launch it, I had some other freelancers who were, somewhat committed to joining me, because I didn't want to just be there like chatting to myself, because the way a Twitter chat works is that you use a hashtag. In this case, it's hashtag freelance chat, and you show up at a designated day and time. And then, hopefully other people join you. But I have been to chats where there really aren't a lot of other people. And that can be pretty, awkward, boring, whatever the word you want to use is.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't want to just be chatting to myself. Yeah. So I did have some folks who agreed kindly to kind of support that in the beginning and kind of foster it along, because it was really small. And when I tell people that now, they sometimes act like they don't believe me, but we started out very small, with just maybe 4 or 5 of us, sometimes maybe 2 or 3 of us, some weeks there in the beginning. So it's really grown. And I think it's just a testament to the idea that it's a very supportive group. It's not a competitive, nasty, spirited group. I know a lot of people think that Twitter can be a very negative place. My Twitter experience has not been that way. I think it is somewhat what you make it, but our community, I don't really have to do a lot of policing or any, like people kind of do that for each other. And there really isn't much that you would need to worry about in that way, because it's just a very supportive group.
Yeah. And then in terms of not competing, what types of freelancer, like what service areas do they provide either on the chat and just in general, what are you seeing more lately? Because you kind of said, freelancing is popular now. And of course, I always thought it was a good idea, but I'm seeing more people go into it. And especially with the Great Resignation, are more people turning to freelancing? Sorry, that was a few questions in one.
No, that's okay. Well, so one thing that I have noticed in a couple instances with the chat is that some people think, because I'm a freelance writer and a PR consultant, so a lot of people think it's PR centric, and it's not. It's for any freelancer, basically. I mean, maybe if you're a roofer or something, it wouldn't be a fit for you. You know what I mean? But it's primarily marketing, types. So writers, graphic designers. We have web site developers. We do have a few PR folks that come, but it's really people in all different types of freelance work. So it's not really limited to any one. I would say if there is a popular category, it probably is writers, because, a lot of people are freelance writers. So, and then what was your other question? I'm trying to think.
Yeah. And I'll just say with that, because we all have the same issues. It doesn't have to be the same area that we work in. With freelancing, it's like, okay, how do I do this? Or what time tracking system do you use or whatnot? But anyway, I was just curious about the Great Resignation, and are people turning to freelancing because of that?
Yeah. I mean, I do see that in some cases. I mean, I think in some instances it is a deliberate decision, as it was with me, and other people kind of fall into it because they have been laid off, or they just decided, this is enough with my job and I'm just going to try this for a while. I will say, and I was just having this conversation with somebody recently, that it's not for everyone. And I don't say that to discourage anyone, but there is a lot to it that goes beyond just doing what you're good at, what you like to do. Like if I could just be a PR consultant, a writer all day, that'd be fabulous. But there are other things I have to do because I run my own business. I have to hold money back for my taxes. I have to, do my own taxes. I have paperwork, administrative, things that I have to take care of. I have to market. I have to do sales. I have to do all those things. So I do think, while a lot of people may be dabbling in it, I want to see how many actually stay with it. And I do think that in the PR sector anyway, I feel like freelancing is really hot. And I think it's because agencies everybody wants PR now, and everybody's really busy and they're trying to staff up. And in the interim, a lot of times, freelancers can be a good fit to kind of close those gaps and fill those gaps while you're looking for the right hire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious what you're saying. So you think that possibly that these people that are turning to freelancing, they might not stay. And is there, originally I was actually going to ask, is there a chance that there may be too many freelancers? And I know you personally wouldn't feel that because you've got your 23-year record of business and clients. And I know you focus on manufacturing, which probably gives you some really solid clients. But for others, like, are they feeling that there's too much competition out there for freelancers right now?
I think if you're starting out, you may struggle a little bit. I always tell people to make sure to tap into their network for referrals, because I think that is one way to kind of, you're not competing. Like if you're trying to get work on Upwork right now and you're a freelance writer, I don't use Upwork and I'm not a huge fan of those platforms, but I'm guessing that it's probably pretty competitive and that people that have been there a while are probably, ahead of the game a little bit. So I'm just saying, if you're new, starting out, tap into your network, get active on social, maybe start a blog. Maybe you're not ready to just launch a website, but maybe you can do some contributed articles. Maybe you can write on Medium or write on LinkedIn, publishing or something like that, just to kind of start getting your name out there, getting the word out there. And then just go to things like Twitter chats. You'll meet people. And a lot of times there are other freelancers even looking to refer work because they have too much or they're not a good fit. Maybe they want to subcontract some of their work. I know there are a lot of freelancers who do that. And so I think there are opportunities if you are committed to sticking with it for a little while.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of service areas are kind of popular right now for freelancers? Like there's service areas that they provide in terms of, whether it's writing, graphics. Is it all marketing? It just kind of feels like it.
I think a lot of it is marketing, and that's certainly where I'm more familiar. But I think there are other web developers and things like that who have for a long time kind of been on their own or work contract jobs. I think that's probably pretty hot. And I think, what was the other thing I was just seeing that's super hot? SEO, of course, is always popular, I think. And just maybe like data science, data analyst people, those people could probably name their price. And so I also saw an article about agencies trying to kind of cater more to freelance talent because they know a lot of people want that flexibility, that freedom to work with multiple clients. And they know that's where the real talent lies. And so they are really trying to figure out how to make it work for everybody, because I think that old model is probably not necessarily always going to work moving forward. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah. And I was just wondering, because you did say it's hot for PR people to go into freelancing right now. And I was also kind of wondering if that's because of this old model where, you're expected to go to an office and work 9 to 5. Like, is that even going to work for a lot of PR people anymore?
I don't think so. I never liked it. So, for me, it's like, wow, this was, I felt like that sitting in my cube, many years ago, sitting there all day thinking, why do I have to sit in this cubicle? And by the way, people are coming in and out all day long. People are, chatting over my head or coming in to talk to me or, it's very distracting. And so I never understood why I had to do that in order to prove myself or be productive, or it never made sense to me. And so to see this happening now, it's kind of, it validates what I have felt and built for myself. And I just think that that's the way of the future. The thing about it that I have to remind people of sometimes is, well, they say it's not stable, but is a full-time job stable anymore? Can you not be let go tomorrow from your full-time job? Of course, there are benefits and things attached to full-time jobs that are hard to maybe replace if you work for yourself. But I think that's even getting a little bit easier to do with some of the insurance programs and things. So, and a lot of people that work for themselves also have a second income, through a spouse or partner that they can maybe get their benefits. And so I think if you're on your own entirely, it's a whole different equation maybe, but I'm not saying that it's not workable or doable.
Yeah. And kind of two thoughts on that. And then I kind of also want to move back to the PR firms. Are they hiring freelancers? But to piggyback on what you're just saying, number one, being a freelancer and making it work, I'll just say, is the epitome of privilege from my point of view. And that was my experience. I don't know if it's everybody's, but I just feel that I don't know that I could have, started a freelance career, which is what my business started as. It was freelance, without having a supportive partner emotionally and, financially. And then the other thing, though, I would say about stability is that having your own consultancy, freelance business, whatever you want to call it, I feel that it is more stable in the end because you can get fired from your job and lose all sorts of income. Whereas with freelancing, you have multiple clients. And so you get fired from one, or actually in this day and age, we let a client go. We decide to let a client go, but we have more income because we have other clients. So Mike and I were both, self-employed essentially, my partner. We feel that it is more stable. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's the argument I think that we have to make sometimes when someone says, well, you work for yourself. That sounds like, that's not a very stable income or lifestyle. And I'm like, well, yeah, but full-time jobs aren't that stable anymore either. Maybe they used to be, like when you worked at the same company for 40 years or whatever, but it's just not like that realistically anymore. And I think people have to be aware of that and understand that it can be a very viable way to make a living and actually live a pretty nice life because you have flexibility that you just can't have otherwise, I feel.
Definitely. And I do find that flexibility. I mean, I'll tell you, especially in PR, I'll tell you, I did sell real estate for a little bit, as people know, and that was not flexible to me. That because I was meeting people on an emotional level where they would call me at like 10 p.m., right? Now, today, I have clients that are meeting me on a business level, and it's not as emotional, thank goodness. So you're working more of those kind of normal hours, and we don't have so much emotion involved. So it's kind of exciting. But so now to you, and you did mention this, you said agencies are hiring freelancers now. And is that really what you're seeing? Are you seeing that finally they've been forced to change?
Well, I mean, in my experience, it's always been part of my business. I've always subcontracted for agencies. I mean, not, every single month of my career, but you know what I mean? Like it's always been a pretty good channel. And I actually recommend that too, to newer freelancers or freelancers who need work. Look at agencies who may need help, because right now, I think what happened, and you can maybe disagree with me if you don't see this, but I saw a lot of agencies when the pandemic started a couple of years ago, laying people off, and everybody kind of pulled back the budget. Clients were, kind of reevaluating what they wanted to do. And then when they thought things were going to open up again, they started like, oh my gosh, we got to hurry and get out there again. So then they started hiring agencies, but agencies had laid off a lot of their staff. And so then it was just like, wow, I was getting so many inquiries from agencies trying to fill gaps with freelance talent while they were trying to staff up again. That's what I saw probably, I'm going to say, a year or maybe even a little bit longer ago than that. And then I think it's really kind of stayed that way because they are hiring again full time, but I think the demand for PR is hot. I mean, and I think that maybe, not to say that there's a silver lining, but digital marketing was the only thing that companies had while people were staying home and couldn't go out and everything was closed. And so if you didn't have an online presence, you didn't have content, you didn't have earned media, you weren't active on social media, what did you have? And people would be afraid, like your potential customers, that you went out of business or that you disappeared because, you went quiet, or they didn't know how to, that you weren't there. So I feel like there was a couple of things going on that drove that. And again, this week I just talked to an agency today. So, I mean, it's still happening.
That more agencies are looking for freelancers because they have so much business is kind of...
I think so. And specialization, like special areas, like maybe verticals that they specialize in, or particular, maybe they write content, or they, maybe they have some area that maybe they do crisis communications, or maybe they do reputation management. Maybe there's some area that they're trying to kind of beef up in. And of course, the junior talent, again, there's a place for everyone, but some of these roles cannot be filled by, a brand new hire out of school, right out of, freshman. You need somebody with a little bit more experience.
Well, but so what if you don't have that experience because you are a brand new hire either, and you did get laid off, or you just graduated and you can't get that job? I mean, I do think that freelancing could be an option. It's a better option than sitting around trying to, apply for jobs that are ignoring you. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts or tips for them?
Well, I mean, I do think, there's absolutely a place for everybody. I just feel like if you're struggling and you have less experience, here's one thing that I recommend, and I did this too. I got involved in a professional organization. I'm in Columbus, Ohio now. I started out here, so I was involved here. And then when I moved out to the Bay Area, I got involved in one out there. And when I say I joined one, I don't mean I just signed up and paid my money and sat back. I actually got involved in the organization. I volunteered, which A, got me experience in doing things that I may not have had experience doing. And B, I met a lot of people. And I positioned myself initially in roles where I would meet people. So maybe now we don't have as many in-person events right now, but I'd be an in-person greeter, or I'd be on the membership committee, or I would do something where I would actually be interacting with people that were joining the organization or coming to events. And then I would maybe, edit the newsletter, and I would interview members and feature them in the newsletter, something like that. So just as examples, but I'm just saying that there are ways to get creative about it. And I think some people are really good at that. Other people, they may struggle a little bit. And I think they may fall back on platforms like Upwork and others. And it's okay as long as you don't put all of your eggs in that basket. I just feel like they take advantage of freelancers, and they also drive the price down to like the lowest bidder. And I don't support that. So
you mean Upwork kind of takes advantage?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to tell everyone what Upwork is, you can check them out. They're it's an online platform that people can post jobs on, and then you can, as a freelancer, bid on the job. And, I actually, when Upwork was Elance, I did get a few jobs on there. But then those jobs, I was looking to create some, a business, and not to say that bidding on jobs is not a business, but it's like, I don't have time to chase leads of people I don't know on this weird platform, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's weird, right? I did find a wonderful contractor that I use to this day from Upwork, right? Mm-hmm. And she's made a lot of money. Okay. But I just couldn't make a business off of that. And so I get it. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I mean, and that is actually, now I do know what would you say the difference, if there is one, is between freelancing and creating a business? Maybe nothing, because freelancers are essentially entrepreneurs.
Right. Yes. I think it's all in how you view it, because this comes up a lot too in chats and on Twitter in general. I see a lot of people saying, well, don't treat it like you're a freelancer, treat it like a business. Well, yes. I mean, if you're doing it full time and it's your career, you absolutely have to treat it like a business. Now, there are people who do it to, between jobs, or they know they're not going to be doing it long term, and they do it for a little bit, and they don't need a website, and they don't need to do a lot of marketing. Maybe they're just contracting back to their previous employer or whatever. There could be situations where that is fine. I'm just saying, if you're in it for the long haul, consistently show up in whatever social media platforms, whatever organizations or groups you're in, be present and engage, right? And then also think about how you want your business to look, how you want it to run and operate. A lot of people I never aspired to build a bigger, agency or a bigger business. I like working on my own. Some people do want to build something, beyond themselves, and that's fine too. But those are the kind of things that you are going to start maybe thinking about. And those are the kinds of things that we talk about on the chat. When to raise your rates, do you need a contract? Where do you get that? What do you do about your taxes? How do you market yourself? All those issues.
Okay. Yeah. And also, so Upwork is great if you need, a couple $1,000. I'll just say that. Like, give me a project. I need some money. I'll do it. Okay. It'd be amazing if one of those projects turned into long-term business. So for me, I look at a business as long-term clients. So that I'm I'm honing from my local community. And it doesn't have to be physically local. It could be, what you're saying, anywhere. So anyway, I guess I'll leave you because I know you have to pick up your kids, which is one of those wonderful, benefits of working on your own. Which doesn't mean that you're not going to work later, probably, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely.
People don't get it. But so maybe just like, what is the most common mistake you see when somebody goes into this? And I think you already did give your advice, but yeah, a most common mistake. And if there's one tip or advice that you didn't say, maybe just leave us with that.
Sure. When you go into freelancing, I would say just be prepared to roll with the ups and downs, because it's not always going to be an up, regardless of these people that you do see posting on social media about their, 6-figure year or their 6-figure client or their first of all, people don't always tell the truth on social media. I know that probably comes as a surprise to everyone listening. And secondly, it doesn't have to be about that for success for you. I think we all define success a little differently. And so if it's just having your own independence, your freedom, your flexibility to choose who you would like to work with and like your hours and days that you work and just, for whatever purpose, if you want more flexibility, I think it's a great career. And then I would say, make sure that you get paid upfront and especially with a brand new client, do not ever, and I've learned this the hard way. And sometimes they will maybe give you a look or act like it's an imposition. However, we do not want to be left holding the bag. I would get something up front. You don't have to bill if it's a project, for example, get half or a third up front and then set, points in time when you will get the rest of the payments so that everybody agrees and they have skin in the game and you cash that check before you ever invest too much of your time in the work. That would be a big tip that I would give.
Thank you. I kind of forgot about this time when early in my journey, I didn't do that. I think I thought just signing the contract was enough. And, let's not forget, we're good girls, right? We're not rude. We don't expect too much. Okay. So, it might be an imposition for me to ask for my worth up front. And well, guess what? I had to go to Vegas to sue somebody. And I only went out of just, the principle of the thing, which I'm going to forget about. I'm not, the principle of the thing cost me money just to do, the principle. And I only got half the money, which wasn't a lot, but it's all about principles, right? No, now I'm just not, you know what? I can just let things go. It's not that I do bill up front now, but I'm just saying, like, if there's something wrong anymore, I'm not going to go out of my way to show you that I'm right. I'm going to take the high road, maybe not fly to Vegas to see you, and then go my way, because that saves me energy, right? That I could be putting to better clients. And so we definitely want, if anyone gives you a look or whatever, those aren't your people, and you are worth it. And don't forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have to keep in mind, like, I think that sometimes we put ourselves last, and instead we should really be putting ourselves first, not only when it comes to getting paid, but in a lot of other ways as well. We have to remember that. And, maybe it does inconvenience them temporarily if they have to, get you a payment. But honestly, it's so easy to send money to people now. It really shouldn't be a big deal, especially for a business that's reputable. So
yeah, and also just if you look at yourself as a business, so you as a freelancer are a business, and no business would operate that way. You would not put your time or your knowledge into something without a check that is cashed. Like cash it.
Yep. Yes. I was thinking that before we got on the podcast. I'm like, not only do you get the check in your hand, if it's not a digital payment, you actually cash the check. Make sure it clears the bank before you engage, because it's just, you would be shocked. It never used to be a problem, but I've seen it be much worse the last few years, people getting stiffed on payments, and it's wrong. So
yeah, and I think that does happen with some of those different sites. But so last thing is also don't celebrate with the contract being signed. I mean, it's fine. It looks nice and everything. I don't even get excited. It's like I'm going to wait until you can schedule the kickoff call, and then maybe I mean, I'll just say, sorry, I'll let you go. But I've had a kickoff call where, I was expecting too much from the client. Like it was too much. I had too many ideas, too many things that possibly they had to do. And so then the relationship didn't work out. And so that's fine. These things, sometimes they don't work out. So that's why we do need the check.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
The consulting agreement is nice, but the check is better. Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time and expertise, and we look forward to seeing you on the chat someday soon.
Yes, thank you, Amy, so much for having me.
Thanks for listening. For more PR insight, be sure to check out Amy's book, A Modern Guide to Public Relations, at prtalk.co. Also, please subscribe, rate, or leave us a review.